Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
What are we talking about today, Tera?
We are talking about apparently book 2 in the Ever King, Ever Queen series. So this one is the Ever Queen. And if you're like me, it's been a while since we read the first book and you have no clue what went on. Like none. Like I started this book and I'm like, who are these people? Like we're mentioning names and like nothing's coming to my mind. Go back and rewatch our first episode on this. It's been a while, guys.
It has been a while. I remembered flirtatious character, but like couldn't attribute who it was exactly. Like I kept mixing up like, okay, Tate and Jonas and Alexi, like they all seem like the same character to me.
Like the only one I remembered is Jonas because the episode for the Ever King, I pointed out that I like him, but I also pointed out that like that means he's probably going to turn bad because every person that I like, I have bad taste in guys. And spoiler alert here, I am very happy, at least for now, that Jonas has not let me down.
I feel like this was a much better cliffhanger in the Ever Queen than we got in the Ever King series because quick rehash of what happened. At the end of that one, Livia got kidnapped by Larson, who was like not BFFs with Eric, but was very close to him. One of his right-hand men just betrayed him, took Livia, stabbed Tate. We didn't know what would happen to Tate, and we loved Tate. And then it was Eric just losing his shit to find his woman.
And at the very, very end, he goes to her kingdom to try and get help. And he's like, we see him like kind of be captured by the Earth Fae because they have no clue why he's there. But all they know is that he stole Livy from them, right? And so they're a little bit pissed off. And that's where we come in this book is he is trying to beg for their help to get her back because, well, they don't trust him and he needs help.
Mofo stole their daughter, their favorite girl, from the party. So in this book, Livia we find out that she's in some place called the Fading Isles, right? There's like a spell over it. It's hard to find this because it's very warded, like protected. And she is now with the elves, which this was mentioned very briefly in the first book because like the elves were like the ancestors of the modern Fae. And so we find out that the elven still exist. And so she's being kind of given the grand tour of her new imprisonment place by an elven princess named Skadinia.
Scotty.
She goes by Scotty. Livia's not having a good time there.
What did you take on why the Isles moved? Because there's a few times in the book that I was thinking it was Scotty doing it. Because we find out that her power is to like take matter from different places, right? And like an island is matter. We also find out that there's a reason that she wants the isle protected. I'm just jumping to the like very end of the book here, guys. So if you haven't read it, like spoilers are coming. But it's because her grandpa was put into a sleeping spell and he's on this island and she is trying to protect him. And we find out that he's not really her grandpa and she's not really a princess. But the little old guy saw her as like a little child orphan and took her in. And so she holds him, she will protect him to the ends, right? And she will do anything she can to protect him. And so I'm wondering if she is the one that's moving this isle.
That would make sense.
Keep him protected.
That would make sense. There was a part where they were talking about, I mean, this is more spoilers, but we're already there, right? So one of the bad guys, is it Hesh? Hesh is the one that has the inscription carved into his chest bone, the constellation of like where to find the island. So it makes sense that it would be moving. Like maybe it's a mixture of Scotty's magic with the motion of the stars or something, like the planet of the stars. I don't know.
There was one time when all hell was breaking loose and Scotty told Livia that the island was going to move. And so that was my first inkling that she had something to do with the islands moving. And then we found out a little bit more about her power and then a little bit more about like why she was protecting the island. But it was right as Eric was there to attack the island.
Scotty was just super powerful. Like, she was such an interesting character. I mean, Livy is not having a good time in the Fading Isles whatsoever. She's dealing with Larson, who ends up being like an attempted rapist, just an asshole, and beats her to a pulp. This is when Gavin comes in, like right after all of this stuff has happened, and Livia is just lying on the floor, broken and bruised up and bleeding, just mentally scarred. And Gavin comes in as like this little mist character. I can't remember whether you said it was Gavin, like a book that was going to be about Gavin with the Mist Thief, or Sewell or whatever. Because remember you were making that prediction.
Yeah, it was Gavin, because he's like the little mist guy. Like he travels through mist. But we also see now in this book, we are introduced to a second character that travels through mist, or has some like power with mist, which is Scotty. And at the end of this book, we hear something else happen. I am just excited for the Mist Thief now, because I think somebody else is going to be the character. I think I'm wrong, and I'm pretty excited I was wrong.
There were so many fun moments about this book, the ending definitely being one of them for the setup on the next book. There was so much fun banter with Jonas. I was like, oh yeah, I remember him now. Like, I loved his personality, because he's always making light of different moments, and he's a twin, right?
Yeah,
Jonas
Sander,
the serious one.
Okay, but Sander has one of the best lines in this book. I kid you not, it had me laughing out loud, and like it just caught me so off guard. He has a line at the very end, or well, not the very end, but towards the end, where they're all talking about going home, right? Jonas does something that makes it to where he might never be able to go home. Sander had been injured, and he doesn't want to tell his parents about that. Olivia's dad had already told his parents, and so Sander makes a comment, like a glib comment about like, hey, can I get one of those things to where I can't go home? It had me cracking up, because he is the serious person. Like, you did not expect him to have like that kind of wit to him.
Yes, I love their brotherly banter, but it's like the whole book, Gavin or Jonas is just like flirting with different people and like using his manly wiles to like distract guards and do all kinds of stuff. And there was one moment where he was like, isn't anyone going to congratulate me on a job well done? And they're like, okay, you doing what you do on a daily basis is not like worth any kind of extra praise. And it's just, I love those moments. So funny.
We're jumping all over the place, but we start out with Eric begging for help from the Earth Fae, right? He's like, they've got her, come help me. And there's a little bureaucratic tape that they have to make it through, and he's like, we don't have time for this bullshit, guys. While it falls on deaf ears with the older people, with the younger ones, including her little brother Rorik, who is adorable, they all break him out of his like little jail cell that he is stuck in, while the like parents try and figure out what's going on and if they're gonna help him or not. Jonas, Sander, Mira, Alexei, and Rorik all break him out, and then they go with him to kind of
cross the chasm and go to the Ever, to search for their favorite girl. What did you think of Olivia's family, like her father Valen and her mother Elise?
I love them. Like, you find out things throughout this book of history that you thought you knew because you'd heard Eric's side of it and what his like trauma brain was telling him, but it's not actually what was happening or the true motivations behind what was happening. And you find that stuff out with Eric, and it is so sweet to see him realize that he is more than his father's son and his uncle's nephew, and like what they tried to make out of him. And you see how much of an impact her dad makes on him, and then also her mom, kind of that love of a family that he finally gets to see. Even just their love for her makes you love them, but their love for him too, and their like foresight to be like, he's special. They saw their daughter going over to him as they were kids and like talking to him and stuff, and they allowed that to happen because they loved their daughter enough. But then like they knew he was important to her, and so while they were cautious, they knew he was special in some way.
Yes, I love the scene where Elise comes to Eric's room or whatever, and she has her little lie detector Fae with her. And from Eric's perspective, he's looking at this woman just like she's fearsome. She's a a warrior that would bring Valen to his knees, and he's comparing himself with Livia to Elise and like what Livia will be in the future. And so I just love seeing her mother through his eyes. And then Valen's, like, there were so many parts I started getting kind of weepy throughout the book because Eric has such insecurities about not having a good relationship with a father, and like his uncle as a father figure was horrible too. And then you have so many instances where Valen starts treating him like a son. Stieg starts treating him like a son and tells him that like he was pretty much going to adopt him as his own son at one point.
Like he had already requested like permission to adopt him, like when they got out of the like cells.
Yeah, it was. I
that
felt
was heart-wrenching.
He's always just seen himself as this ugly, scarred up, limping monster, and Livia and her family just makes him more whole again. And so that was like a very heartwarming aspect to me.
Even her friends, because like they begin to immediately accept him when Livia is like, no, he's mine. And they just like immediately accept him, and they're like, okay. And he's like, what the hell?
And even like Mira's reaction to seeing Eric again, she was like, I promised Olivia, like if anything happened to her with the man that she went off with at the party, that I was going to kill him. And just being like that kind of friend to Olivia. And then the way that she warms up to Eric too. It's just everyone ends up just accepting him into the family. And I'm just like, oh, good for him. And he deserved that.
At first, he feels like he doesn't deserve it, though.
No, like, he struggles with that.
I mean, I don't think at the end he fully feels like he deserves it, but like I think he's like coming into it a little bit more.
He's coming around. I was so scared at the end of this book that something was going to happen to Valen. Weren't you? Like, I was like, oh my God, if they kill off Livia's father, I'm going to be so angry. It's refreshing to me for the father to still be alive and kicking, like still around to be a presence.
It's not a Disney book, okay? A parent doesn't have to die. I don't think I was afraid for him because, like, I don't think we saw all of what Valen can do. I think Valen
he's so powerful.
I know, but I think he was holding himself back a little because like there's the scene where he like basically makes something jut out of the sea to where Eric can kill Larson at the end. You can't tell me that he couldn't have done that earlier and just like it been over, right?
True.
Like he could have, but he was letting Eric do it so that Eric felt like
didn't Valen raise the seabed so that the ship was like on land? Like he's so freaking powerful.
And that was while he was also fighting his own fight on land. So he was doing the same stuff like to like thwart the sea witch and the elven person. So he's like over here taking on these people while Eric's got Larson and he's still like helping Eric. Like, here you go. I'll help. So yeah, I wasn't worried for him because like I said, I don't think we saw all of what he can do. There's a reason that he was able to unite all of the Earthen Fae.
Speaking of just like all the Earth Fae and the bureaucracy that they had to go through, because Livia was kidnapped by a member of the Sea Fae, and then after she's still kidnapped, these Sea Fae who end up being a part of Hesh and Larson's crew keep appearing because they're preparing to try and overtake the Earth realm. And so you see all the Sea Fae pop up. So yeah, you guys are stupid. And so you see the Sea Fae start appearing. And so that's why all these Earth Fae start getting involved and like everything just starts taking a longer process. So Rorik breaking Eric out, great scene. And then it was just like, I felt like they were hitting up the House of Tides, the House of Mists, and we started getting introduced to like all these other characters like Maelstrom. And
okay, let's talk about Narza, because the whole last book there was like a kind of love-hate relationship between Eric and Narza, where Eric kind of loved her because she was his mother's mother, right? Like, but he also hated her because he felt like she just abandoned him. We see throughout this book that she didn't, that it was his father that put like this, I don't know, spell or whatever you want to call it on him, that he wasn't allowed to have any contact with his mother's family.
And Narza also agreed to doing a spell, right? That she would have no recollection of doing.
So it would protect his mom, Oline?
Yes.
Obviously, that's her daughter, so she wants her protected. And so Narza did the spell. In turn, like Thorvald was, you know, he didn't want any other influence over his heir. besides him and his his brother, who were very, very bad influences over his heir.
Mm-hmm.
So we see her give up her ability to come back to the Ever and pledge to the Earth Fae that if they sent help, then she would stay there and she would protect the Earth Fae lands from Hesh's crew, which are now attacking. And when that is told to Eric, he's like, why the hell would you do that? And she's like, you're my grandson, basically. Like, I will protect you.
You know what?
And
I'm glad.
I think that was the first time we saw like somebody from his family, besides Tate, protecting him. Which Tate, oh my God, I love him. And I love that there's like this little like will they, won't they between Tate and Mira. Because
oh, it's so cute. She's in such denial about it.
And so is he. Like he is so surly, cool. Like you can't tell what he's like even thinking about this.
But also between Selene and Finn Stormbringer, like the scene where apparently he went to Sewell, Selene's father, to talk about his feelings and like what to do about the whole Selene situation. Know he was
her father.
No, and Selene's like, "What? And, you did what?"
And he also did not know that he was who he was. Mm-hmm. Which was the person that can like strip a person from their bones while they stayed alive. Like, oh
yeah, is he like Flesh Ripper or something like that?
Yeah,
like, I'm like, he's like flaying people.
Yeah, and cauterizing it to where they stay alive.
Yeah. Ooh.
But so like Narza makes this like pact, and it has a name, but it's basically it can never be broken except for death or somebody else making a pact to like end it, right? Like an agreeable pact. And so she's like, I'm willing to give this up because you're my grandson. And this is where we meet Maelstrom, who is her husband, her mate, and their son, Tavish, who is very powerful as well. And we find out that Tavish is actually, I don't think Eric's found this out yet, but I think like he would have to be kind of dumb to not have an inkling. But Livia went to Tavish and she's like, you're his uncle, aren't you? And she found out that there was a spell or like we weren't allowed.
Women just be picking up on stuff.
Yeah. And he's like, I will always protect my nephew. Like, and he was like, I was there after the war. I was there to collect him with Tate. To make sure he was safe, but he doesn't know this because I can't break this. It took you to break this. It took you taking over his heart, basically, to break this. And so now he gets to have a whole family. He has an uncle and some nieces and nephews who sound like terrors, and a grandma and a grandpa and like a mother-in-law and some friends and some cousins, and like he gets to like live a happy life. And
yes.
And they all cared about him this whole time.
The thing about Narza is like I wasn't sure whether we could trust her, and so getting this extra context and the sacrifices that she made, and she's still like very Team Eric and loves him. I needed that because I couldn't get fully on board with her and connected until like something was verified that she was a good person.
Well, that and like again, we've only heard bad things because we've only had Eric's side to all of this. We've only seen the fact that nobody was there in his like recollection of being there for him. His grandma just kind of left when his mom died. His uncle, like he didn't even know he had an uncle from what I'm gathering in the book, on his mom's side anyway. The only person there for him was Tate, and I feel like he felt like that was because he was protecting Tate, and that's why Tate was there for him. Because you hear about the like hell that Tate lived through from Harold, including like having his neck broken and like beatings and things like that, that Eric was always, you know, using his blood to save him.
And Tate's one of those characters that doesn't talk a lot. Like on page, he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but he's so like, there's so much depth to him. You just want him to open up more.
Well, the dude has some like massive PTSD, like has to. I have no qualms with the fact that he's surly because he's trying to survive in his own head, probably. There's so much going on about his dad like beating the shit out of him and killing him multiple times. If it hadn't been for Eric, his dad didn't care about him at all. And Eric's the only one who cared about him, really, in his mind, probably. And I feel bad for him because he doesn't even have like the Narza and the people that are coming out that have loved him the entire time. It's only been Eric at this point. He doesn't have a mom's side.
On the topic of like shitty families, we meet, I think it's the House of Tides, we meet Joran and his daughter Aveline, which that was so fucked up. The little girl that Livia found hiding like in the hall and stuff, because so their house is on an island and it's still under the blight and the people are starving, and Joran just doesn't care and is feeding people this blighted food and they're getting sick. And
well, he's not even feeding them the blighted food. He's just starving them, and they're resorting to that. They have nothing else that he is willing to give them. So,
and then he's like using Aveline because she has a really interesting power too, right?
She can connect the minds of people. Like she can create like a meeting place.
She's like Zoom.
Yes.
Aveline is
I
Zoom.
feel like that like really diminishes her power a little bit. Like she's like a computer.
She's like Zoom.us. Yeah.
Yeah. She can help like with the meetings and kind of, I feel like there's more to her power too, because like that's what she does for Eric, but I feel like there's more to her power. I feel like Joran was using it for negative, and when she created this room, there was no ability to use it for negative, right? It was like a safe spot. Nobody can hurt each other, but I feel like maybe there's something more Joran was using. That's just what they asked her for.
He's still alive at the end of this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of this book, they make Aveline take his place as ruler of their house. And
well, they don't make her. They give her the option. They
option.
Demote his ass, though.
She was like, you know what? Yes, I'm going to. Yes.
Yeah.
They do make him promise, like, if anything happens to her, you're dead. Like, you're on
like,
our
we
list.
know who to go for.
Yeah.
No, but like Livia is the one who, like, I guess Eric offers it to her, but Livia is the one who convinces her, because Livia was like, you know, your island deserves somebody who cares about the people, who cares that they get to eat food that isn't poison, and who cares whether they live or die. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, they do. I'll do it.
Girl power.
And then somebody else becomes a lady, which is a hilarious scene for me. And so sweet, because they're over here like telling people thank you for fighting in the war. They're thanking people for helping them, and the first thing that they do is unblood oath all of the crew members of the Ever crew. I mean, they're still able to be crew members, but he's like, I don't want you to be a crew member because you have to. I want you to be a crew member because you want to. And there are a few people who don't accept it, which we found out later. One of them ends up accepting it, but Celine is then called forth. He's like, you know, I don't want you to be a crew member anymore. And Celine's like, what did I do? I don't want to, like, I want to be a crew member. Like, this is my life. And he's like, no, I want you to crew your own boat, because we have a spot open as a lord, because we killed Hesh, right? Like he's dead. So his like Lord of the Bones or something like that.
He was Bones. Yeah,
is open, and he's like, and we kind of need another lady in this joint.
Oh no, Blades,
yes. And so she becomes the Lady of the Blades, or lady, something like that. And Finn comes up and he's like, I take it back. I want to be unblood oath. I don't want to be on the crew anymore. And he's like, I want to be on her crew. And she's like, I think she's just like, she's not used to having like an audience, right? And so
I mean, she's been in hiding all her life, like her identity and her brother and her father.
Well, and she's still worried about her father this whole time, because she's afraid that like people are going to attack him again now that people know who he is.
Good luck to those people.
He used his power on the boat and then also claimed her and Gavin as his children. And so she is worried for her brother and her dad. And I'm like, bitch, they have powers. They have powerful powers. Like, and they have the Ever King on their side at this point. They'll be fine. And
can we talk about the Ever King and some of the things that he did, like torture and prolonged death scenes to get his Livia, or just for like vengeance sake too, for the things that happened to her?
So his power, if you don't remember, is his blood can either kill you or heal you, right? And so he used it in both senses to like bring people back after he'd like tortured them to death, and then do it again because he was having too much fun apparently. And he did that to Larson like one time. Like he cut himself open so that he could like put his blood on Larson and bring him back just so that he could like that death scene of Larson's.
At one point, they're talking about a crew member walking past the aftermath of it, like heaps of body parts, like his missing eyeballs, appendages, and stuff. I'm like, oh shit.
Well, and he promises, like in the first book, he promises if anybody attacks his queen, like when he's making her his queen, right, that she will wear your bones. And then we get like a reprise of that when he's killing Larson. And he's like, she'll wear you. Don't worry about it.
Because Larson wears the bone necklace. He's like, instead of that, we'll give her a crown of bone.
Because
like, yes,
Larson
Livia would wear it.
Larson makes a like glib comment about she's a queen without even a crown or something like that. And he's like, oh, we'll give her one. Don't worry about it.
Larson, just shut up. You're done. Just shut up.
You're making it worse for yourself. And then he does. He gives her a crown of Larson's bones and the Sea Witch's bones and like Hesh's bones because he says, and a certain lord. And so that has to be Hesh, right?
And then the fact that Valen like made that spike or whatever come out and then he just smashes Larson's skull, and I'm just picturing things spilling out and, you know, eyeball hanging out.
It was
like
not a pleasant death.
I'm like, oh my god. But on the subject of the crown, like, there was that scene where Valen's little court guy, like the little furniture maker, he's like the courtly decorator guy. Like, he had the throne made for
That
Livia.
was Alistair. It wasn't Valen's. It wasn't Valen's decorator. It was like
Eric's.
Oh, yes,
okay.
It was a little old dude named Alistair. And yeah, when they got back from being gone, he's like, I have a surprise for you. And he took her to show her her little throne. And Eric in his head, he's like, he never doubted I'd get her back. And like, I think that is Eric's first inclination that Alistair is also on his side. Because I think Alistair served his dad too. And so I don't think Eric ever knew if he's like just loyal to the king or if he was loyal to Eric. He sees Alistair's loyalty to him in making her a throne. And
it has to be
connecting the Earth Fae and the Sea Fae, because he made it like with vines and like he connected the two lives in this throne. And Eric saw that as he never believed I wouldn't get her back, and he believes in her just as much as he believes in me.
It's like putting yourself in Eric's shoes. It's hard to know whether people want to be around you because they respect you and think of you as a good leader, or whether they're just afraid of you because of the reputation that your father had too, right?
And whether they're around you so that they can trick you or whatever, like Larson did.
Which Larson ended up being the half-brother, right? They shared the deadbeat father, but Larson was also part Elvish, or Elven, so that was
his mom was like a princess or something, which is why some of the elves were on his side, because we find out that like the kin bond is a big deal in elven culture. And so because he had elven blood in him, they sided with him, whether or not he was right. Some of them did.
What did you think of Scotty being forced to remove the heart bond between Eric and Livia?
I felt bad for Scotty, not necessarily for Eric and Livia, because like their love was more than just a heart bond, right? But it took a piece of Scotty's soul with it.
Didn't it say each time Scotty did stuff like that, she became just even more neutral, aloof, like indifferent and unfeeling? Yeah, very stoic.
It's like it like eats at her soul. Like she becomes less of herself every time she's forced to do something like that. We do find out that it can, like, her soul like can kind of come back a little bit, or like she can become less aloof, like over time, the longer she's not made to do things like that. And so hopefully we will see her come back, but she like hates it. Like she even mentions it a few times that, like, you know, she was forced to take this bond. Olivia was like, it's okay. Like, you didn't actually take anything. It's fine. It's fine. Like, she was trying to like help her get over the fact that she stole something from Olivia.
That caused Eric great pain.
Great harm.
Scarred them.
Yeah. But she is like, it's okay. It's okay. We're fine. Like, you'll be okay. Like, she's trying to help her come back from it by acknowledging that it's not that big of a deal. It's okay.
Someone that has a lot of work cut out for him in reacclimating Scotty to like humanity, or I don't know what the equivalent is for the Elven, but just like being in touch with that side is going to be Gavin, because the cliffhanger at the end of this book,
it's not Gavin.
What? It's Jonas. Yes, the man-ho.
So Jonas keeps getting himself, I feel like, okay, Therian and Jonas are very similar people, but Therian's dumb and Jonas is like Therian's doing it for his own good, but Jonas is doing it for other people's good, I think. So he at first takes on the like kind of oath to let Narza free so that she can help fight. Now that they've killed Hesh, there's not really a target on the Earthen Face like territory, and so now Narza doesn't need to protect them anymore from Hesh's crew. And so Jonas says, hey, you know what? I'll make an oath to you that will break Narza's. And basically, like, Eric and Livia say, protect my people like I will protect your people. And then Eric throws in, like, protect Livia over me. Always Livia. And I'm like, oh, he would have done that anyway, but, like, you're just showing your, like, true colors here, Eric. And so he gives that up. And Sandra's over here like, I should be the one doing this. You're the oldest, blah, 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 and like arguing with him. And Jonas is like, no, it's going to be me. I'm going to do it and we'll be fine. And so he does. And Narza gets to come back and she is like super powerful too. When we see her fighting, she holds her own against the witch.
Fionn.
And then, yeah, Fionn. That is the line that Sandra, because at that time, Jonas is not going to be allowed to go back to Earthen territory. Now, Eric is going to allow him to, but like when they make this kind of pact, it doesn't allow him to leave, right? And so that is the comment that Sandra makes is like, can I take an oath? I don't want to go back. When he's faced with like facing his parents after he got himself stabbed.
The Earth Fae are a little overbearing as parents, like the Sea Fae, the parents are kind of like hands off, like I'm gonna be a shithead to you, or maybe too many hands on. And then the Earth Fae are just like so just smother like you with loving. Love and attention.
Yeah. And then so you also see like Valen, who treats like all of these people. So with Narza's pact, she got to bring Valen, but she had to go back, right? And so Valen is their help, which turns out that's fine. Like he's good. That's all the help they needed. He comes and he's like a dad to all of them. And so he's like getting on to them, but in like a cute little like way of like, you guys shouldn't have done this. You're little babies and stuff. And then Sandra gets stabbed, right? And he's like, I'm dying. And Valen's like,
by
no.
Scotty, right? She did it.
Yeah. And Valen's like, no, you'll be fine. Like, your dad's been stabbed a few times too. It doesn't take out your claim. And so I like that line from him because, he's just kind of being glib. Like, you'll be fine. Like,
there were a lot of fun. I wish I would have tracked them because there were so many funny dialogue moments.
And then so we see Valen also then tells their parents that he got hurt and that Jonas has this oath on him. And they're like, we don't want to go home. It's okay. We'll stay here.
He's like, I'm betrothed. It's funny you say that.
Yeah. Well, at the very end, like he is back home because Eric brings him with him and he's like, you're free to do whatever you want, dude. Like, be what you want. I don't care. So Jonas at the very end has to tell his parents that he has made a deal with the elven like grandpa king, I guess is what he is, like that he asked for like Scotty's hand in marriage because the only thing that can keep her from being forced into the hands of the prince because she has
Arian.
a betrothal to him, and being used for like negative things and like destroying herself basically, is to have another equally as high like betrothal. And because Jonas is a prince, he matches, right? And so that kinship bond also plays a role in this, because he's like, the elven can never attack us if we have a kinship bond, and if I'm married to her, we have a kinship bond. She is like a princess or whatever of the Earth Bay. He's like, two birds, one stone. And then I think he also has like a little bit of a soft spot for her once she takes the chasm away and allows them to like...
He was attached to her, like just like at her side after all this stuff happens, which...
Well, and did you see he was the one that like saved her? Because she used all of her mights to get rid of that chasm, right? And it says that she fell into the water, like basically passed out. And he went to save her. And up until that point, though, he was pissed at her because she stabbed his brother, right? And so he was like very standoffish and like always watching her to like make sure she doesn't do anything bad. But I think that there was something a brewing.
Whatever happens in the next book, The Mist Thief, it's going to be like that enemies to lovers kind of vibe between the two of them for sure. I am all about it. He's like the changed philanderer prince,
well,
right?
He's got enough personality that I think he's going to bring her personality out. Like, he has enough of that, like, just joyful energy, and she needs her joyful energy back, right? Because she was a very nice person when she first met, like, Livia.
He's like Cassian, kind of.
Yeah.
Like that golden retriever kind of humor is funny.
And so I think that they're going to be like, he's going to bring it out of her, and I think she's going to bring him down to earth a little bit. You know, like...
They're like opposites attract. It's going to be so fun.
It is. It's going to be a blast, I think. And we've kind of, hopefully, got the Ever Kingdom settled a little bit.
Recently, news came out. So the Everseas book series, which we thought was just going to be 3 books, has now been picked up by Berkeley Romance, which is a major, romance publisher. And so in 2025, they're going to start releasing these books through that publisher. But LJ Andrews also said there's going to be 3 more books. So I'm like, okay, if they do like 2 books per couple, can you see it being like Celine and Finn being one as well? Or wait, no, or Mira.
We have too many couples for it to be one. I think it's going to be like ACOTAR, where like Reese and Tera got 2 books, but then we have like Nesta and
Elaine. Yeah.
So yeah, I think like we have Jonas and Scotty. We have Mira and Tate.
Finn. Oh, wait, yeah.
Celine and Finn. And then Sander can't be left on his own. Like, I'm sorry. And Lexi, like, there was a mention of a girl that liked Lexi, too.
I don't remember this.
But, like, those 2 cannot be left on their own. Like, I'm sorry. No.
Okay,
like,
so
there's got to be a bookish
couple.
Person for Sander. But
I'm like, okay, we've only read the first 2 books, which we could have sworn we were on book 3, but this is only the second book.
And there's so much mentioned about Elise and Valen's love story that I could see like going back and reliving that love story.
Oh,
because there was a lot of like mention, like little drops along here about like how Valen won her and how basically he pulled an Eric and he stole her to use her for his own devices. Right? Eric loved Livia the whole time. Valen didn't. He stole her to like use her and then fell in love. So like enemies to lovers thing right there.
Ooh, that would be good.
So I could see like a lot of different couplings.
But in terms of like the big bad, because
and then Gavin's also got to
dead.
get like a woman. Because,
he
like,
will.
Gavin, like
he's okay. That scene where he told Livy, he's like, I can see, don't tell him I said this because he would kill me.
Like you've now made me fall in love.
Yes. I was like, oh, somebody hook up with this guy. He's a good guy.
So like there's too many that I want to see like their love story.
They're fun couples. But like in terms of the big bad, we saw Scotty's first betrothed guy, whatever, Arian, Arion, whatever his name
Arian?
is. He escaped.
Is how it read in the
Arian,
book. Anyway.
Like the Aryan race.
He's just as evil.
Yeah. But I'm like, we still have 4 more books into the future for this series. I'm like, is it really going to stretch that many just for him? Or is there someone else that's going to be introduced?
Well,
Or maybe
but
more Sea Witch stuff?
I mean, do we have to have a big bad? Like, do we
Yeah.
really? Or can we have just a
Cozy.
romance?
You just want like cozy books. Like, oh, it's
Like,
their Christmas interlude.
yes, I mean, that would be a good one for like a Celine and Finn because they're drama anyway. Like, we could just have because
With some
like,
Seawolf time, her dad, yeah, running
yeah,
interference.
yeah. And then like you could even like pack in a Gavin one. Like, we could just have all kinds of love in one book, right?
Yeah.
Um, we could have like with Scotty and Jonas's love story, like that's where Arian would come in and like the Elven people, right? That's our big bad. So we have one big bad. I foresee like Tate and Mira's having to like fight the like damage that has been done to him, and she's like living off in this world where nothing bad has ever happened to her basically, and a lot has happened to him. So like there's like that. There's also, I think, and I could be wrong on this, but a mention of that somebody was still alive. I can't remember if it was like Harold or Thorvald. Like something was still lurking, like whatever.
Like some essence of them? Or
I don't know. Like, I think it was Larson who made that. So it may have been like he was saying my blood is the same as Thorvald's. Maybe that was his like gist of that. But I could see like something coming back from his dad, or maybe a baddie that way,
there's,
or like Joran coming back and
yes,
like trying to take back over.
100%. He's not going to be happy with this. He doesn't like
I
women
could see
leadership.
Evelyn and Gavin getting together. That would be a couple. Maybe that's where Joran comes in because he doesn't like that. Or maybe it's like maybe she gets with
Tara's over here playing matchmaker.
I know. Maybe she gets
like,
with like Sandra or something, and then her dad's really mad because the king or the lord of the territory will be an earthen fae, and he's not down for that. I could see a lot of things happening, but
what do you think this business with the chasm calming down after what Scotty did? Like, she removed the violence from it, so now they're going to be able to travel
spell that was put on it
to and from.
Yeah, she removed that spell that some witch at some time had put on the chasm.
So that'll be interesting to see what the implications.
Well, that's how we have love
be.
stories between the earthen fae and the sea fae. Like, I mean, Evelyn couldn't get with Sandra without it.
I can't take you seriously with your little kitty cat ears. I love it.
They're changing colors too. I like that. Yeah, no. I don't think you need to be taking me seriously right now as I'm like I don't want this person in depth with this person.
No, I was just thinking if your ears like lit up like a mood ring, like, oh, when Tara's mad, they're like red, and when she's sad, they're blue.
Well, they don't turn red. They only turn pink, and I feel like pink is a good color. But yeah, no. I am looking forward to what I feel, because I haven't read anything about the Mist Thief yet. I feel like it's Jonas's story now. I don't feel like it's Gavin's story.
Which I'm all for it. Jonas is hilarious.
I feel like Scotty is gonna feel like he's stealing her, right? Like, because this is another forced betrothal, and the last person that she was forced betrothed to was not a nice guy to her, right? He wanted to use her, and so I feel like that's the play on Mist Thief.
This is going to be like her Nesta story.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Oh, I can't wait to see this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my like, now we're going to start reading it. It's not going to be Jonas's, and we're going to be like, So hopefully it is. Hopefully we are right, guys, and we get to hear more about Jonas, because unless he becomes like an Adian in this book, like, he is still up there on my high list, and I am very proud of myself for finally picking a guy that doesn't like irritate me during one of these books. Never fails. Like, at least there's part of a book that they become like a douche nozzle.
Speaking of douche nozzles, do you think there's going to be another throne sexy time scene in the next book? I feel like each book has had like a sexy throne scene, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the first one was like Eric killing people at her feet on the throne after tossing her on there. This second book had like
Actual sexy time
on the throne, like Iron Flame. Yeah.
And so much that the throne moved.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, didn't somebody like walk in after, like, shortly after?
Yeah, and they didn't even care.
They were just listening at the door. they were
the guard standing right there. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, they are drawn to their thrones.
Wasn't there a scene where her mom or someone like walked in on them and was just like,
her little brother did, and then her mom, because her little brother
they just came in having a full conversation. They're like, you could have locked the door. She's like, it's a royal chamber. We shouldn't have to lock the door.
No, so like Rourke came in. He didn't like knock or anything.
He's like
they were mid, and he's wanting to go in the like ship, right? He wants to steer the ship, and that's what he's asking for. And then Eric falls off naked because he was trying to like cover himself. And Rourke has a little comment of like, he showed me his butt. And the mom's like, you could lock the door.
That was so cute. He was like so cute, but so funny. Oh, Rourke is hilarious. He's like just such a
how old is Rourke?
Jabber. He's got to be like 7 or 8.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking he was a little bit older when they were talking about him having his like sword and like protecting her and stuff. But then like as you meet him through this book, I'm like, no, he's got to be a little kid.
You have Eric saying, like playing to his confidence with like being a little sword master. And then he's just talking everybody's ear off. I'm like, I feel like that's where my son is at 7.5 years old. He's just like, blah, 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 blah. You can't get him to shut up.
Well, and when we find out that Eric did that and told him he's a little sword master, was because Rourke wanted to talk to Eric and not Livia through the little shell. And Livia's like, I'm the one who's been kidnapped and gone for a while. Like, why not me? And like Alexi's like, because he told him he was a sword master. That's why. It doesn't take much to sway his loyalty over here.
I loved all of the family dynamics in this book. Gave some warm and fuzzies to all the torture and brutality.
Okay, but there's one family dynamic that I was like, oh shit, this is going to cause problems. So Mira's dad, right? So he was staring at Tate the whole time. And then we find out like later that he is the one who banished Tate. And he's the one who did like the bad things, the earth bad things to Tate, right? And so I feel like that might cause some problems later on between Mira and Tate. Because again, Tate has enough to like keep himself going with bad things happening to him. And now her dad in some way is a part of that bad.
He's anti-Tate. It's always fun with a romance with a father obstacle.
Well, and we saw that, and Livia like overcame that very easily with hers, because obviously her dad and Eric were sworn enemies for a while. But
Tate's like the Azrael, right?
Yeah.
It's just like
he's got some shadows.
Yes, he's a shadow daddy. Anyway, we can go on and on and on.
I can see him being a shadow daddy too.
Tera's ready for the Tate.
He had like he's a heart walker though, so like that has to be even worse for him, like knowing people's true intentions and whatever, and knowing that nobody truly cared about him at all. Like, like that's a deeper level of like PTSD, like than even Eric had, I think.
Because did you ever watch True? Yeah. It's like Sookie Stackhouse in the True Blood series, and she can read everybody's mind, and she couldn't connect with anybody because they were all so goddamn negative and just picking her apart and trashing her constantly. Yeah.
At least he doesn't hear their thoughts, but like he can hear their true intentions. Yeah. And like, I mean, for him, everybody had true intentions of hatred towards him. Besides Mira.
Tera's ready to adopt Tate.
I am. If Mira doesn't take him, I will.
Mira is going to be so good for him. She's
Yeah.
fun.
I can see like her like positive energy being good. And Mira's talent, like she's super powerful too. Like, okay, we haven't talked about the Earthen people's talent besides Olivia's
And Torvald. Yeah.
and Valen's.
Oh, yeah.
Wrong dad, okay?
I've been saying
wrong dad.
all the wrong names. See? Goldfish.
So Mira is much like the chick from Twilight, where she could like make and much like the dude from the Sun King, where they can make an illusion happen. And so that is what you see, right?
Yeah.
And the twins are called the Nightmare Twins, not because they're nightmares, but because they show you nightmares. Like they can get inside your brain and like make you believe this like fear. That would have to be torture. Did we see Alexi's talent or affinity or whatever you call it? I don't think we did.
But I can't remember. Isn't he a cousin or something? He's a cousin, right? Of Olivia? I can't remember.
Yeah, his dads are the ones, like one of them was who Eric saved.
I'm sure we'll see more. There's 4 books.
I don't think we've seen his. Or if we did, we didn't know it was coming from him.
Maybe he's just a good warrior. I don't know. But the way they talk about the Nightmare Twins, like their eyes going black and just totally getting into your head. And so while you're like fucking around with the things that you think you see, they're just like slaughtering you.
Yeah.
We like
those are the only ones, right? There's only 5 of the like Earthen children that came along.
Only 5.
Olivia, Sandra, Jonas, Mira, and Alexi. Yeah, I'm interested. Like now that we've got like this whole issue.
So we should jump right into the Mist Thief.
Yes. So we will hopefully get you the Mist Thief sooner than we have been providing you the other books so far
our poor book
in
club.
Our every month book club that has not been every month. Sorry, guys.
But, you know, on that topic, though, we're going to jump into the Mist Thief next, and then we need to do our vote because we have had so many books submitted on the book club. So we'll do a vote on social media after this. But also there was some really awesome news about something that we've covered on the show already.
Yeah, we have a 4th book in a series, right? It is the 4th book, right? I did count that one right.
4th and final.
4th and final book of the Sun Queen Trials series. So we will be reading that shortly too. And then reading whatever the vote is after that.
And then hopefully next year we can talk about Maxton Hall because that's been picked up as well by, I think Berkeley not Berkeley. That was L.J. Andrews, but Maxton Hall has been picked up.
So we're going to get an English version?
Yes. So I'm like, oh, please let us get a book next year because I would love to talk about those and compare it to the show because I loved it so much.
And then we should get a 2nd season of the show soon too, right?
Maybe next year or year and a half or something. We'll see. So much to talk about. So
yes,
we just need to sit down and do an episode of like potential books to vote on and then some other shows and stuff that we're going to talk about soon to give us a little reading break.
And as always, if you want to tell us a cool book series, hopefully one that's done so that we don't end up in an 8-book series again, not knowing this, make sure to send us a message because we're always open to new book series.
Yep. Send us a message. We're on all social media at Story Darlings, or you could join our Amazon book club, which will be linked in the description box below. You can join that and suggest a book there. And yeah, it's been fun. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you had fun just hopping around talking about The Everqueen by L.J. Andrews. So until the
Mist Thief. We're doing fine, guys. We're not drunk. We're good.
No wine this time. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Unless
now.
that's vodka in her cup. We don't know.
No, it's water. That's gross.
Sandra would be redder if she had been drinking alcohol.
I mean, I'm already pretty red because it's summertime and I hate summer and I'm sweating. But yes, the alcohol, the Asian flush that I have. So maybe next time. But Also, one last thing. If you gave us a listen and you haven't rated or reviewed the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen, please do, because that helps so much. We appreciate you for tuning in and joining along on the banter with us. All right. Kitty Cat Tara, anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
I've put out my feelers of who I want to be together. Let's see if LJ Andrews agrees with me.
We'll see if Tara's right. Check back next time. Okay. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.